Hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode here on 1950's Farm. So as you can see, we've got the little Fortin N series tractor out on the grass roller, and we are just finishing off rolling this grass, and then the next job for today, well, will be tomorrow now in the game because the daylight is very slowly running out, is we're going to just cut a section of the field to our left there, and we're going to just take a bit more hay off there just for the cows, because we do need a little bit more, because we're not going to quite have enough for winter. So just a little bit more hay off there, and then as I say, we'll be looking then to get into our field work and things like that. But we, as I say, for now we're just going to do a little bit more hay. I realise there's been quite a lot of sort of grass cutting and hay work in my videos across the series, but the problem is that because I farm the game or play the game sort of properly and try and farm as if it is a real year, like most people do, but it does mean that sometimes my the work clashes on two separate series, but I do try to do them in different ways just to sort of almost freshen them up and make them so they're not quite the same, but sometimes it just isn't possible. But say we'll get this done. We need to get a few bits and pieces put away then for the winter, and because the winters in Ohio can be very harsh and very severe, so we need to get stuff put away so that obviously we look after it, because back then money was tight, obviously. Sort of metals were scarce, so you really had to look after your machinery and look after the things that you had. But yeah, so as I say, the field in front of us needs ploughing. We've got a little bit of ploughing to do upon the cattle farm, because as I've said, Harry Hill was a worker on that farm. Really, his time was sort of split and shared between the two farms. So he, having taken up the grant from the American government to start farming, he took it on, but also kept his job for a couple of years on the dairy farm. But eventually Harry would outgrow his job on the dairy, and he would grow his, the business would grow, and he sort of realised quite early on that actually, rather than working for the dairy farm, he should contract himself out to the dairy farm, and that was in the end what he did do. And to this day, they, as I've said before, they do still supply the dairy farm. They're not the sole supplier to the dairy farm, and I don't think, as far as I'm aware, they supply everything that the dairy farm needs. But in terms of localised hay and stuff like that, it is still sent to the dairy. And is it silage sorghum? I think they still do for them. So yeah, the two farms are still linked to a point. But Harry's son Hank has not cut ties, but has certainly reduced dramatically the amount that the two farms do. And of course, not only that, but the dairy farm has today has grown, beyond what it was back then, and of course it's more efficient for them to and cost effective to own the machinery and do their own work, rather than have it in have contractors in. But some of it is still contracted in, so stuff like the foraging and stuff like that. But yeah, so for the good next few years on the game, we will be still supplying them, but eventually, again, I will scale that back as to follow, from what I understand has happened in real life. But for now, at least, we will be still, supplying the dairy with the hay and the silage. So it's all good stuff. But anyway, as I say, we just get this little bit done. Then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward time, and then tomorrow we will start with working that grass. I'll time lapse all of that depending on how long that makes the video. We'll do some other jobs as well, or we'll leave the video there. I'll finish the rest off camera, and then when we come back we'll be doing some winter cultivation work, because as I say, it's getting near now to winter. We're soon going to be entering late autumn, and we need to think about getting the land ready for next year. And part of getting the land ready for next year is a case of getting it ploughed, because it will then be weathered, and come next year it will make it much easier to pull the land down. So we are going to have to maybe be in the market for a little cultivator, just something so that we can drag the ploughing down. But as I say, all that is sort of to come, and there's one or two little bits and pieces that we do need to buy. We don't have a cultivator, and actually looking around, I don't have a seed drill either. So we're going to need a seed drill as well. So we'll sort it out by the time we get round to next year. We'll sort it out. But this trailer's going to need to come off the grass, and then I think what we'll do is we will go from this white post here, or this white fence here, and we will harvest that side, I think. I think we'll harvest that side, and actually we'll leave this side, and then we could just bite the bullet and mow all of it, but it is a very big field with a small mower, and I'd be keen to maybe to not do that, but we'll see. Anyway, for now, let's get tomorrow in, because as I say, it's getting dark. So we'll get tomorrow in, and then we will see what's occurring on the next day. Hopefully no rain. If there talks of rain, then that has knackered us really, because as I say, we definitely don't need the rain. Right, there we go. Harry's day always started at 7:30, so we'll use the farm to mow the grass. Now I have to remember which is which. That's the tedder, and the other one's the rake. Yeah, that's definitely a rake. So that's cool. Right, we need to get that put away as well. Lord knows where we're going to put it. Probably in there, I guess, his favourite. Yeah, probably fit along there, but we need to do that before winter comes. So yeah, as I say, we will crack on, as they say. And also as well, the tractors could do the wash really. So we'll have to try and find a way of doing that. Right, we are going to just throw the man off, that's fine. Right, we're going to come down here. And we don't need to cut right up to the fence, that's the thing. And that'll be quite sufficient. So, as I say, I'm going to do this in a time lapse. You can listen to some lovely music, and I'll join you at the end. See you in a minute. And I'm back. So, as you've just seen, cut Teddington Road. Not the bestest of jobs, I have to be honest, but good enough to get what we want off the field, which is just a few more bales, as I said earlier, for feeding to the excuse me, the cattle. So it will be more than a good enough job, if I don't miss it anyway. That wasn't very good. So I think the majority of this I'll probably do off camera, just because it is gonna take a while to do, and as I say, over the sort of 2 series we've been doing a lot of hay and baling, whether it be hay or straw or whatever, so I'm sort of kind of keen to keep it at the moment to sort of not a minimum, but to just make sure that the videos don't get flooded with it. But with this series, obviously we're trying to get things sort of up and running, depending on how much hay we've got left next year. We might not have to do too much of it. One thing that I have learned as well since I've been doing this series is that, and I've clearly missed it in the start of this series, is that the dairy had a John Deere excuse me, sorry about that, that came from nowhere and I didn't have time to kill my mic. I apologise. Yeah, I missed it. The dairy farm had a John Deere conventional baler, so that's something we're going to have to look into getting for that farm. And from what I've been reading this afternoon, it's now sort of quite late in the evening, it's about 25 past 10, something like that. Hank borrowed and used that baler to do his horse bales, and that was how he did them, and eventually he got rid of the round baler and moved over to the conventional bales. But he had the round baler for a few years because, as I say, they were new out on the market in 1950. They were sort of being tried with sort of varying degrees of success. A lot of the tractor manufacturers were sort of trying out a lot of new technology at that point. As I say, America were the world leaders in trying to mechanize farming and trying to essentially, I guess, beat the labour shortage, because it would be getting on for late 60s, 70s before really the labour for the industry started to come back. So to mechanise the farms and to make them mechanical was a necessity more than almost life just sort of naturally developing. I mean, it isn't too much further down the line before you start to see the Caterpillar tractors come in. They were around in 1950, but they were not widespread. Again, to get the government grants and to, I guess in a way, maybe secure their business, they moved over to agricultural machinery, because anyone that was trying to produce mechanical agricultural machinery, was getting, in those days, quite serious sums of money to produce the machinery and to produce the machinery, and to reduce the amount of labour intensity that was in farming, sort of before that in the 40s, sort of 2030s and 40s. Horses had, by the time 1950 had come along, horses had pretty much disappeared from farming. They were being used. Certainly in America, they had largely disappeared, but in the UK, we were still using horses in the 1950s. The old Shire horses, mainly used for ploughing and pulling carts and mangles and stuff like that. Mangles being a type of sugar beet that is fed to cattle and horses. But yeah, so as I say, sort of 1950 and the American government, the world was changing, and the world was changing rapidly, and that's what I hope this series will eventually come to capture, is that farming developed at an alarming rate, and I didn't quite sort of realise how alarmingly quick farming sort of went from being, I'm reluctant to sort of say it, but it kind of feels like the right thing to say, almost like a hobby business, into this global business that or industry that farming has sort of become today. It really is only the mega farms that are surviving, and it's those farms that made the right decisions in their inception, not only in America but across Europe and the UK. The farm that I work for, I would say that it probably averaged out that every year we would buy another farm that had been sort of like a small family farm that had either run into financial difficulties or was going bust, or there's no one to take over, or whatever, and it was only farms like us and LFP, Lincolnshire Field Produce, that could afford to do that. And in doing that, obviously they become much bigger, but the sort of small traditional family farms are disappearing. You only have to look at Yorkshire and places like that, where the dairy farming has probably halved in the last 10 years, if not even fallen at a greater rate than that. But it largely became all about machinery and who could afford the machinery. And I think that's the big thing, that back in the sort of early years, it was who could afford the machinery, and those that could afford the machinery were the ones that began to rapidly outgrow their sort of competitors, if you like, that couldn't necessarily afford to have the best machinery or the latest machinery. And because they were buying sort of second hand all the time, they were always 5 to 10 years behind maybe a farm down the road or whatever. So as I say, that's one thing that I'm hoping that this series will capture, is the rise of farming and how quickly it went from being a family concern, if you like, to being mega farms and mega businesses that look to take over certainly the countryside around where they're based and stuff. So so and I say it most episodes, to be fair, I'm really looking forward to this series and seeing how it develops, and how our farm. I mean, as much as we can sort of base it on real life, it's not something that I'm going to be able to completely replicate. And so our own farm on the game will take on its own sort of life and its own form, and I'm quite interested to see that as the machinery comes available to me, how that changes the way that I do things on the game, and how we're able to become more efficient, we're able to become quicker at what we produce, we're able to produce better quality. As I say, within a 10-year period from 1950 to 1960, farming in 1960 was unrecognisable to the 10 years previous. Suddenly, sort of Case International were, a big agricultural company. Obviously, you had John Deere, you had Alice Chambers, you had Ford, sort of Massey Harris that then became Massey Ferguson. You had all of these brands that were accelerating farming to unprecedented levels for its time, and I think for many years, farming was probably one of the leading industries, across the world, not just America, not just UK, across the world, because the machinery developed so fast, became more and more reliable, ultimately became in relative terms became more affordable to more people, and so as I say, I'm hoping to capture that, and as I say, I am also intrigued as to kind of, well, how's this little farm gonna develop. I've got sort of plans to do some of my own things on the series, but still roughly sticking to what Harry and his family did, and then to the time when Hank took over and carried the business forward and further, really. Harry is quite open about the fact that by the time his son Hank had come to be ready to run the farm, Harry, is very open in saying that he had taken the farm as far as he could take it. That if it hadn't have been for Hank coming in when he did with fresh ideas and new ideas, and almost because he hasn't been burned by farming life for the 20, 30, 40 years previous, he was more willing to take risks, he was more willing, and of course the company grew at a rapid rate, so it'd be interesting to see how this farm sort of is able to replicate that in its own way, because this series, this game, this farm, whatever you want to call it, will take on its own sort of life form, will take on its own personality, and develop naturally in its own way, and I think it would be really interesting to see. But I think we probably have come to the end of this episode. It's been quite a long one again, and as I say, we've baled some hay, and I'll finish the rest of this off camera. I'll probably have it all collected as well, and I'll probably have the field rolled, just so that you don't have to sit through all of that again. All of the hay is going to the dairy, because we really do need to make sure that we have more than enough to cover us for the winter. It's all going to go down there. But at the time of recording this episode, I have 98 subscribers, which is incredible. Today I've picked up 4 subscribers, which I know in sort of terms of other YouTubers doesn't sound a lot, but for me that's massive. If by the time this goes live I haven't got 100 subscribers, for anyone that clicks the subscribe button and becomes the 100th subscriber, leave a message in the comments and I will give you not only a mention in either series, whether you want to be mentioned in the Britons one or this one or whatever, but I will also do a short celebrating the 100th subscriber, and I will also put your name up on there. Hopefully that's a little incentive. As I say, I've had this sort of personal target running now for just over a month. When I started it, I think we was on 49 subscribers, I think. And so to be 2 away now from 100 is a magnificent effort by everybody. So all that's left for me to say is, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It really does help the channel. It brings the videos to a wider audience and more people can enjoy and share these series with us, and the more the better. And thank you ever so much for joining me on this episode. I really look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Thanks ever so much. Bye for now.